actually to make a video so I can sort of hear it beforehand and we could just discuss the points. So how long have you been working on the piece? Tell me.
Actually, I played this piece in 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I just keep this repertoire to use like in concert and competition. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, already 3 years actually.
And have you've played it in competitions and you've played it in concerts, and what has been your experience playing the piece? I mean, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you're progressing with the ideas and the music inside the piece?
Yeah, I feel very comfortable to play this piece on stage because it's quite comfortable with my hand now. I during past 3 years, I have an opportunity to take some masterclass so many, and I feel like personally this piece has so many different interpretation, so
Right.
many, and the perspective from many player, different teacher is very different. Was very different. This is
Yes.
this I feel a bit also from my experience when I take part in the competition. Sometimes it's work with some group of jury. Sometimes it doesn't work. Some jury have extremely different idea. For example, the manuscript and Segovia edition
Right.
extremely different role. This is the reason why if I go two ways, it's not clear. So the jury may like or just okay, but if I go in a very clear way, maybe the jury or someone will like very much, someone will against the idea from Segovia, the tempo, the musical idea. Yeah.
Yes. So how about your performance of the piece when it's 3 years ago? How did you perform it, and how has that changed over time?
Changed a lot. I think at the beginning when I play this beat, I'm striving for the speed and just go technically. Now I found like Ponce is very poetic
Yes.
and the harmony is like we have to show that. I think for me it's the first priority, not the speed, but the beauty of the harmony is like it must be shown. So I at the beginning, I feel like I play really fast. Now I slow down a bit to show more harmonic progression, but maybe I'm not sure. Maybe it's still too fast or not, because
Right.
yeah, I think the perspective when I look at the piece is very different from 3 years ago.
Right. Well, I asked this question because I think it's kind of important to think about where you start with the piece, where you are with the piece, what is your perception of where you can go with the piece. So those are the three perspectives, but there's also another perspective, I think, which is very, very important. And that's the perspective of the style and historical period where this piece was composed, and the reason why this piece might have been composed. So maybe we can just start the lesson with this idea of why did Ponce compose the piece. The good thing is that we have there are published letters between Ponce and Segovia, quite a famous publication that happened in the 1990s, and they explain a lot of the context, a lot of the reasons why Segovia asked Ponce to write music. Do you know anything about this background a little bit? You probably know because you're very much into the historical part of the music, the research part.
Yes, I knew very much. Like for example, this piece wrote in 1939, of
Mhm.
course for Segovia. And I knew the publication about the letter, but
Mhm.
I forgot and I didn't read it all the detail. I read a lot from the Ponce concerto, but not this one. Yeah, and from what I know, like this edition, Sequoia changed with the agreement from Ponce also,
Mhm.
and I also learned something from the manuscript and manuscript. I think some part are different, and yeah, but if we spoke about the letter, I don't know about it so much. Just the request from Segovia to write the music. I mean from Segovia to Ponce.
Well, let me correct you a little bit. the publication was made in 1939, I think, or maybe
Yes,
some of the earliest recordings. But the piece was actually written a little bit before that. The piece was started. He asked for the piece in 1930, and the piece was finished in 1932. So it's a little bit earlier than that period. Although that doesn't make such a big difference. The important thing to know about this piece is that all the sonatas that were written, this was the last sonata that was written by Ponce for Segovia. So all of the pieces before were written sort of with a person in mind. For example, Segovia asked Ponce for a piece based on the work of Source. So we have the Sonata Classica. We have other sonatas that were based on style. In this case, on a historical style. In this case, he asked for a sonatina not too difficult with a Spanish style. With a Spanish style. So that's why later Segovia sort of called it the Sonatina Meridional, which means, right, we have the Mediterranean Sea, and so he wanted this flavor. And he actually sent Ponce a bunch of tunes, a bunch of little songs that he knew by ear, and he wrote them out, and then he sent them. For example, the second theme, right? The second theme of the first movement.
yeah, this is like, yes.
Exactly. That is very much, and there are others in there, which is so nice. So let's go a little bit into the performance. I think the performance is excellent, the way that you're playing, and we might not have time to discuss all the movements, this time around, but we could start with the first one. So I know that you've been performing the piece a long time. And the reason why I know that, why I could understand, is because it's a very convincing performance, It's a performance that sort of brings you in. It's a very personal performance. So usually that means that you've been playing it for a while, because you've sort of lived with the piece, and the piece has sort of changed from being a piece that is just on a piece of paper into a piece that is your own piece in some ways, like a connection that you make with the composer and the music, right? So that's extremely clear. What I like very much are the colors that you're putting into the music. I think that's very, very, very beautiful. Every time I feel like, okay, well, he's been playing the same color. It's getting a little bit boring here, and then you change the color. That's very, very nice. This music is very orchestral in some ways, even though it's written for the guitar and it sounds like great guitar music. But Ponce was a pianist, as you know, right? He was a piano. So he thought mostly of piano textures, piano thing, but he was also a good orchestrator. So we hear a lot of, in most of his music, including this one, it's very, very much like orchestral sounds sometimes, especially in the development of the first movement, right? So I can say that you've played the piece for a while. I can say that you have a good personal relationship with the piece. What I'm missing, though, is this kind of Spanish character sometimes, you play very often, you play one phrase, and the phrase sort of stops, and you take a very long pause.
Yeah.
Before going to the next section, right? And the score, if we look at the score, most of the for example, let's see if I can share the screen with you here. Can I share the screen with you? Well, maybe I can. I don't know. If you can see the score, most of the score direction says poco this, poco that. So a little bit, and I think too much exaggeration is not a good thing, especially in the first movement. If you exaggerate too much, it stops being a piece by Ponce or a piece from that period, and it sort of begins to be too much of your piece. you know. And actually, I don't think it's good for the structure of the piece in general, because sonatina has to be a little bit more tight, a little bit tighter, so that you can do a little bit more kind of rubato in the middle section. You know, I'm not so sure if it's a good idea to play, pause, play, pause. You know, those eight measure, four measure phrases. We'll talk about that in detail a little bit later. This is just a kind of general idea. You know that Spanish music, the basis for a lot of Spanish music is this kind of Phrygian, right? So the first movement has tons of that, tons of that. I mean, you can see it everywhere, right? I'm looking at this. I'm gonna check out the score here because I don't know the piece from memory. But even the beginning, it's right. That's the first phrase that we have, and then all around the piece. So he shows you that the piece is going to be very Spanish. Now, the way that you're creating the interpretation for me is a little bit too much French, in the sense that it's very beautiful, it's very fragrant. There's a lot of great uh, smells, beautiful colors, and all these things, but it doesn't have the kind of rhythm that you would want in Spanish music, you know, and the rhythm that goes through all the way from the beginning of a big section to the next big section is just too much slowing down.
Yeah.
Can you just play the beginning a little bit for me?
You mean this section,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and everywhere you sort of slow down. You know, you slow down. There are moments where you have to slow down. There are moments where rubato is you just have to, because you have to show the end of something and the beginning of something else. But it's too much, too much. Can you just play me the first page, Chin? Right. So it doesn't need to be so much rubato there. You know, sorry. If it's too much, you lose the momentum of going into the next section. You know, so you have to be very careful. It's okay to do it. You know, it's okay to slow down a little bit, but too much, I think, is not such a good idea. It stops us from from feeling the momentum going into the piece, and it stops the piece from becoming very kind of Spanish piece. Can you just try one more time?
And you know any solution how to make a good like how to make the balance of this? I mean, how can I know like if it's too much or it's too less? Because now I feel like I don't know how much time that I can put, or should I go straight? Or I just spray it and let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the important thing is to think about how is one section related to the next section. So is it a huge break? You know, is it a is it the end of a big section, or is it the end of a little section, or is it the end of even a smaller section? So if it's the end of a small section, then you might use just a very short little breath mark, you know, bum 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 bum, you know. And if it's the end of a big section, bum 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 bum, like a more of an allargando.
Yeah.
So just think of where you are in the structure of the piece. If it's the end of a very short little small section, just go straight through. Don't stop too much. Don't feel like you have to stop everything and then start going. You know, it's a little bit like the way I think of it is Do you drive? You drive a car, right? You drive.
Yeah, yeah, I can drive. Yeah.
Right, right. So imagine if you're going through, let's say, a stop sign, a red light, a stop sign, or turn.
Yeah.
So when you're driving a car and you're coming to a stop sign, you're going to stop and you're going to wait there a long time. But that's the traffic signal telling you, okay, this is a big difference from this to this. There are other cars passing by, right? Then if you go to a stop sign, you're going to stop just a little, you're going to stop fully, and then you're going to go on. But if you're going to make a turn, you're going to slow down a little bit, but you're not going to really pause the car, right? You're just going to slow down a little bit. So think of it. If it's a big, huge section, stop the car. If it's just a stop sign, don't stop too much, right? If it's just a turn, go straight through. You don't have to stop a lot, okay? So in this case, this particular section over here is more like a turn.
Yeah.
You're turning into a different part of the piece, but you're not going to stop, and it's not a big thing. Try it again, maybe just that little section, and just find the ideal sort of timing for going from this little section to the next section. In fact, I mean, it's a section which it doesn't really need to stop at all. Bum 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 bum. It's a continuation, more or less, of the same idea. Try it. Just from the pizzicato section. Yes, one more time. For example, there. No need to stop too much. No need to stop. Try one more time. Try to keep really the Spanish character, the rhythmic sense of the piece going throughout the whole section. Okay.
What do you think about the tempo? Is good or is a good tempo?
Yeah, the tempo is good. The marking is allegretto, right? So it's not too slow, it's not too fast. It's not, Spanish, there's a perception of Spanish music being very fast and but Spanish music is actually not that fast. It's music that's rooted in dance. Not like Italian music, where there's a sense of rushing and floating from one place to another, a very quick sort of corrente type of music. Here is not fast. You don't need that quick. This is not additionally, what comes to mind is this is not a grand sonata that has the elements of speed and virtuosity and all these other things that you would get from a grand sonata, right? This is more of like a little sonatina. If you listen to Beethoven, for example, grand sonata, will have a lot of things. We'll have virtuosity, we'll have all sorts of things in there. But a sonatina by Beethoven is much more restricted, much more limited, So you don't have to show necessarily huge virtuosity, especially in this first movement. More important to show the Mediterranean character, the Spanish character, which is not necessarily fast. Try it one more time. Yeah, no, that's very good. How about this little detail? Dum, da, da, dum. See what it looks like, right? would be nice to get a much more clear, clean triplet. A little bit like like
The instrument of flamenco dancer, right? Yeah.
right, exactly like castanets. So think of it, right? So very, very, very clear triplet. Very crisp, clean triplet.
Should I emphasize the note in the syncopation, for example? Right?
In my opinion, no. It should be. Sorry, let me just look at the. I'm looking at you, but I should be looking at the music, right? So. I feel it more as a sforzando on the first beat.
Creative breath, but not to have an accent, right?
Yeah, not too much accent.
Okay.
Try
So maybe.
it one more time. Yeah.
And then,
Right. Exactly. Now, the reason why not is I think that you have so many emphases on the weak beats here. You know, da 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 da, right? So to achieve some kind of balance, to achieve some kind of well, not balance, but some kind of what's the word? Well, balance, right? So you know, a variety, I think, would be a better word. This. And then the offbeats come here. So there's a lot of opportunities to create offbeats, right? To create this these strong accents on syncopations, on offbeats, to create syncopations. But I don't think here.
yeah.
I don't think here. I think this one is pum paralam pum paralam pum paralam pum paralam pum paralam pum paralam, right? Not so much pum paralam paralam. It's different. It's a different way of doing it, but try it one more time. And then when you have other moments where there's very clear that the phrase begins on the offbeat or on a syncopation, make that even more, you know, so that you feel the difference very that between the and very important. All right, try it one more time, and then we can go on.
So from the beginning or somewhere from the beginning?
And no, just from those pizzicatos, I think is okay. Okay, very good. Now, cedendo un poco. Cedendo means what?
Yeah, like slowing down, yielding, something, right?
Yeah, yielding, cedendo is to relax, relax a little bit. I mean, the Spanish word is relax. So it just, yeah, it means that, to yield, to sort of calm down a little bit, but cedendo un poco, all right? So a little bit, not too much. And typically, you know, a fermatas are, you know, we sort of think of fermatas. There's a fermata on that last E, right? We think of the fermata as as something like, well, you can just do whatever you want, but it's actually a very regulated, it's actually a very regulated marking. Typically, in the Baroque period, they describe fermata as you take the value of the note that the fermata is, and you add about half to that. So in this case, I'm not sure if in this case it would be good to do that, because that would be only a 16th note. So it would be a very short fermata. But you can see that underneath the fermata, he writes poco.
Yeah, I saw it also, like little.
Yeah. So everywhere, poco, 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 poco. You know, what that means to you, what that means to you as a performer is, don't exaggerate. I think that's the composer's way of saying, don't exaggerate too much. Don't stretch things. Make it a little bit more tight. Make it a little bit more classical. You know, in some ways. Don't romanticize. And I think this is very important if you want to then create the contrast with the second movement, which is very, very different. I mean, what are the words that you see there? Flexible, flexible, or flexible. You know, that you have a lot of flexibility. You have a lot of things that you can sort of. A lot of things are up to you. In this movement, no. In this movement is much more classical, much more rhythmic, and much more controlled. Now, let me talk to you about something very, very important. Just in the phrase on the last line of this page.
Yeah.
Da dee da dee dee da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. Da da dum bum bum. So these two fermatas, the first fermata and the last fermata, should be more or less the same. Bom da dee da dee da bom da dee da. You just take a breath. Bom da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da dee da 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 da. Da da dum bum bum ba da dum. Right. That should more or less be the timing. Now there's another important thing here, which is, where do you think is the center of this phrase, this particular phrase?
And
The
you mean here,
yes.
this one? I think here, right? And it's go down.
I would say probably not, because in my case, in my view, I think it's the C to the B. Listen.
Yeah, if we see the major, it's the C, but yeah, I just thought like the highest note, like
Yeah, this is sometimes a big. This is sometimes a very big misconception. You know, sometimes we think, well, the center must be almost always the highest note, or the lowest, or whatever. You know, but not always. Not always. I think this is a case again of where do you stop? So, for example, if let me just see here. If you stop here, it's not as sorry. It's not as nice as if you emphasize this. Now, in Phrygian, which is the Spanish character, where we again talk about the Spanish character of this piece, right? This is. And this is where you can sort of pause just a tiny bit. Just, you know where we are, right? This.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Then it opens up. It makes much more sense to pause a tiny bit, to make a tiny bit of little rubato on that C to B, not the E to D.
yeah.
Try that. Try that a little bit.
Alright.
Does it make more sense now? Does it make
Yeah, yeah, I think it's also the harmony by itself. Yeah, yeah,
exactly? So you have these
yeah. I think
half. Exactly, yeah. So the C to the B is a little bit more important. The other thing about this particular phrase, Chen, is are the glissandos, you know?
yeah.
Uh, the way you're doing the glissandos, to me, they feel a little bit not quite prepared, you know? They should be very, very similar. So it's a very important part of Segovia's. The glissando was a very important part of Segovia's um, music,
Interpretation.
musical vocabulary
Yeah,
interpretation.
yeah.
So whenever you see a glissando in a Segovia score, you have to really consider how it's going to be played. You have to think of how it impacts the phrase, you know. So you can play you can play a little bit slower. You can play it faster. You can accent the first note or accent the last note. It really depends on the situation, but in this case, it's more of a vocal, yeah, yeah, you know. And then the second one is very similar. So the first one you play a little bit. I'm not sure how you'll play now, but in the recording that you sent me, the first one is a little bit slower, and the second one's a bit faster.
Yeah,
You-
because I just didn't think about the rhythm. I just like it actually. Yeah, the feeling of but when I listen to you, I think you think like it's the C is one of the note
yeah,
also.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes. You know, so it's a very vocal type of thing. You know, Segovia used it as a not as a technical device. You know, because sometimes you know, or a color device. He used it as a vocal device. So yeah, yeah, right, yeah, da 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 da, dee, da da dee, da da, and then of course these. So on the way back, he creates slurs, right? But to go up, he has glissandos. It's extremely important when you phrase, especially all these little lines that go up and down. You have to think about what is he using? Is he using a slur that goes up? It doesn't make too much sense to use the slur going up because he's trying to create more sort of more tension as he goes up, right? So, and then slurs coming down. So
yeah.
try to be very aware of this. You know, sometimes it's not so much about how you're doing the glissando, but that you're doing it, that you're going up with the glissando and down with the slur, and then you have to show us. You have to show it. Try it. Try that section. Exactly. So in a way, the first part of the piece, the first part of that section that goes up, that ascends, is very hopeful. Da, 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 tia, tia, right? And then when it descends, it becomes very almost sad. Di, da, da, di, da, da, di, da, 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 right? So it's a way of the composer and especially Segovia, right? Because Segovia created the
the articulation, the slur, right? Yeah,
probably Segovia created both the glissando and the slur. So in a way, it's a way of Segovia telling you, be hopeful when you go up. It's an interpretation, like a little hint of interpretation. Be hopeful and kind of energetic going up, and then when you come down, the slur will help you to create this idea of sadness, almost. You see what I mean, right?
that is very interesting because I think Segway used the technical to support the music, so that's why he put the slur only the last phrase.
Perfect. Exactly. That's what I would what I would like you to know exactly. You said it perfectly. He creates this technical element to create a musical feeling
Yeah.
through the piece. So now play the whole thing. Play this whole section, including with the fermatas, okay? Because the fermatas are going to give you a little, and then start the next section.
Okay. So.
Sorry, chin. Just the bomb da dee da dee dee da dee da da da. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you told from the beginning. I thought the beginning from the beginning. No, the beginning from this phrase. Okay.
From this phrase and keep going. Yeah. Okay, good. That's very nice. I think that the fermata now was a little bit more, a little bit, more relaxed, right?
Yeah, I try to not think about fermata. I just the fermata is just to shift, so I don't take time and I just shift. Is it better in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
The fermata should be really poco. He says poco. If he wanted a very long fermata like you made in the first recording, that's not so good. Not so good.
I thought about like I just want to hear until the note go away, but now I understood. And then I just for me technically it's easier to have a long time to just take a break from the stress, but for musicality maybe it's not good, right?
No, it's not. It's not good because it creates too much distance between two things. Those two things are very unrelated. So the ba da dee da dee da dee da da dee da dee da. It's a beautiful little phrase that is very lyrical, very sort of emotional, very 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 beautiful. And then that little theme the second theme which comes later is very different. But that doesn't mean that you have to create this big distance between them. Okay, so now let's talk about this second theme. Let me play something for you. Okay, I think you're gonna really love it.
Yeah.
Let me just find this for you. Just give me 1 second. Listen.
Yeah, it's like kids song, what I know, but I just don't know the name, but I knew that is the song for kids.
Yeah, it's a song from northern Spain that talks about kind of mountains, mountainous region. So they talk about in the mountains they're going to cut the cane or the sugar cane, which gives them
Yeah.
sugar, and they're going. It's a very beautiful rustic sort of folk song. The way you play it in the recording that you sent me, is beautiful, but it's a bit too, it's too mysterious. It's a little bit too mysterious. It's very sort of, you know, I think it's much more simple here. So in a way, you're making the situation a little bit too, mhm. You know, if you play it like this, or you know,
Yeah,
can you hear the difference?
yeah, of course. I made it a lot of vibrato and yeah to, but I think if I put just like simple, it's enough.
Yeah, and then the next section, which is this beautiful little this, yeah, it's very much a vocal type of almost taking breath, yada, you know, and that you can make very mysterious and very complex, very very sophisticated, you know, very much like classical music. This so there's a portamento right there. It's not written, but of course, but in order for that to work really well, then this section, sorry, and then poco più lento.
Yeah,
You see what I mean, right?
yeah.
If
I maybe I'm not pogo lento. My tempo is lento.
you are molto lento,
Yeah,
and you know, listen, I don't want to I don't want to change how you are as a guitarist. We've talked about this many times.
yeah,
The 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 concept here is to challenge some of your ideas, to challenge them with what is exactly in the score and what is exactly the intentions of the composer. You know, this conflict between your personality, your creative side, you're wanting to make this piece your own, right? This part is in conflict with what is in the score. What does the composer tell you? What is the sometimes what is the more stylistic thing to do? You see what I mean? This conflict has to be resolved somehow. So sometimes it'll go towards you, and sometimes maybe it'll go more towards the composer, right? A lot of performers, for example, they go too much in the side of this, which is the composer side. They do exactly what is in the score, exactly perfect, no question about it, you know. But of course, that's not good either. So the balance in between, equilibrium, right? So in this case, I think you're pushing it a little bit more towards you. I think this way I said towards you, a little bit too much towards you, and then what's created is an imbalance in the score, imbalance in the interpretation. Okay, so try this section. The way I would hear it, the way the score tells me, you know, I don't play the piece. So, I mean, of course, I've played it. I've taught the piece before, right? But I've played it through, but I've never performed the piece, so I don't know the piece extremely well. However, the score is telling me I'm just thinking of what the score is telling me, right? And the score is telling me something very different than what your idea is. So let's try to gravitate a little bit more towards the score. You use your natural musicality, and then we'll create some kind of balance. Okay. So the first section, da-da-dum, pam, pam, pa, con grazia, grazioso, which means elegant and beautiful, but with a kind of folk-like simplicity, innocence. Now this is a change. And count. So right? Don't make it too romantic. Like, okay, I can just take as much time as I want. It doesn't work that way. Try it. Try it. Let's see.
Okay.
Three, 1, 2, 3. In my opinion, it's a little bit too fast. This second, you know, ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. You're playing a little bit too fast. I don't mean a lot too fast, you know. I mean just a tiny bit. If you slow it down a little bit, we can hear all the notes. Now, the way that sometimes this is created, if you want to create this idea of tempo in this particular piece, you imagine the words. Maybe you don't know the words, maybe, or you can look them up. I can send you the words. I think it's very easy to find it.
Yeah.
But you can just make up your own words, you know. La 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 la
Yeah.
la.
I agree. Like with baby sound. La 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 la.
Yeah, yeah. Or just make up, you know, like a words like this. This little baby is dun, 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 bum, 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 so that you can hear every single meaning of the thing. Okay. Don't
Okay.
don't don't think of it as instrumental music. Think of it as vocal music. Okay. Very
Okay.
simple folk song.
Okay.
Listen, one other thing. Don't slow down too much. Bum bum da 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 dum bum bum be. You're doing da 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 dum bum bum be.
Yeah.
If he wanted that, he would put un poco più lento before, but he puts the poco più lento, ba-da-dum, you know, he puts it a little bit later. So don't slow down this too much, okay? Don't let us feel like it's all this is already. It's not like that. Bum bum. You know, it's not too. You're playing it.
Yeah.
And then the poco più lento, it doesn't feel like a surprise anymore. You know,
Yeah.
so, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You see what I mean, right? Too
Yeah.
much. You're not you're not looking at the score, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
my
Sometimes
message.
I play it. Sometimes I let my ear feel it, and I just feel this chord just suspension. I mean that's why I do it. I just feel the suspension, but yeah, it should be. It's just like I let my ear dominate my playing.
And let me explain this. This is kind of important for you to understand, because I don't want to stop. I don't. The last thing I want to do is make it seem like I want to influence your how you want to express yourself, right? This is not the point. The point is what happens before and what happens after. So the point is always context, the context, right? Context is extremely important. So for example, if you say something, um, I cannot think of an example, but let's say you have to say this to your
Yeah, but I do understand about like it's very clear between like if I do too much too slow, and the contrast between poco più lento and a tempo is not surprise anymore. This is the
exactly.
yeah, I understood it. It just I told you why I was not thinking about this because I just feel this. But if we see the other perspective, I think it's more important than the suspension. This should be simple, and I also can do the surprise here, but the level of surprising is not a maximum as the difference between a tempo and poco
That,
più lento.
that's it. You've understood it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about the context of where you're doing it. If it was in another part of the piece, if it was another section of the piece where it would make sense to do that, then you do that, and it will sound fantastic. But here, no.
Yeah. So
Here,
maybe try again, right?
yeah. Let's try it again. The way you did it now was you could do take a little bit more time. Okay, take it a little bit more time. Now you took it too much. Now you played it too fast. So let's try to find a little bit more of a balance, right? You can ba-da-da-da-dum pum pum pi-dum pi-dum ba-da-dum pum pum pi-dum.
Yeah, I
Not
will.
it's not ba-da-dum pum pum pi-dum, but it's not da-da-dum pum pum pi-dum. You see
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Something in the middle. Da-da-dum pum pum pi-dum pi-dum. Just sing it first. Sing it first to yourself, you know? Ba-da-dum pum pum. And sometimes it's very helpful to do it the three different ways so that you can understand where is the one that you want in the middle. Okay? So try to sing it in a very fast way that is ba-da-dum pum pum pi-dum, and then try to sing it da-da-dum pum pum pi-dum, and then somewhere in the middle. Try it without the guitar, just your voice.
Da 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 di do 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 di do.
Right.
Di da 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 di do 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 di do. Right.
Yes.
Da 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 di da da. And then so maybe I try.
Great. Great. And it sounds really quite balanced, you know. Now, when you get to this, we can move on from that. It would be very nice
Right.
when you play this so far, you know, so far we've had a lot of attention on the top notes, right? Because this is very melodic. Now, when you get to this part, it would be very nice to emphasize the bass, right? So E, D, sum, pum, pum. You see what I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very Spanish, right? So much more bass. So and then you have your moment of arrival, right? Bum da da dum bum 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 ba da dum bum bum. Try that section. Try maybe from um, ba da dum from the più lento, right? Ba da dum bum bum Dee-dum. Try to control the tone. Now, the way I would feel that that accent, you know. So maybe I can show you here the way I do it
Yeah.
with this hand, right? So instead of I don't know if you can see it, but but it's almost like it's not this way, not pushing the fingers this way, but maybe a higher wrist. You can get a little bit more. Not that.
Is it because of here or?
Yeah, you're playing it a little bit higher, right? You're playing.
Yeah, I use here. Also possible here, but I just feel like my fourth finger is a bit too difficult to grab the sixth string.
To me, it makes more sense here. Sorry, let me change the camera angle. To me, it makes more sense. Can you see it?
Yeah, I saw.
So it makes more sense here. What you said? You said that your pinky don't.
Yeah, my pinky is a bit too straight for me, and I cannot grab the other one. I don't just technical.
Well, try it. Try it again. Show me what you're doing then.
With my finger.
Yes.
This. Yeah. Oh.
To me, it may be a question of compromise between what is musical and what is not. But to me, that doesn't sound very good. This fingering that you were.
It's too dark, right? Yeah. Oh,
Yes, that could work. Yeah, that could work. Try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now try this fingering. That's good. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to change the fingering that you have. Okay, I'm not going to ask you.
Yeah. I like also the sound, and it's. Yeah, many people do this, but I here it just I just move all the finger and I just put the pinky, but here I have to jump and yeah, but the sound is yeah.
You might want to might to delay. You can delay this. You don't have to arrive all on the same time, so if you're doing, you can delay this chord a tiny bit, not don't feel like it's you have to put all the fingers at the same time. You can play this, arrive, and then arrive with this. So you think of it as two arrivals, not one arrival, but da 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 boom cha, not da 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 boom. You see what I mean, right? You have two arrivals. So you're playing. Don't think of that. Don't. But think three separate things. Try it. Just to see if it works for you.
Yeah, you are right. I think too much with the chord, but if I just put the pinky first, yeah, that, yeah,
So you're thinking of it. It's better to
yeah,
think of it as in terms of
yeah,
three arrivals, right? Three chords, three things, not two. If it's two, it makes it you feel like, oh, you're thinking too much about the three fingers up here and not about the pinky. So
yeah,
boom cha, boom cha, boom cha, boom cha, boom cha, not cha cha cha, but boom cha, boom cha.
yeah, you are right. Yeah, because to grab all the strings in this kind of shape is yeah, yeah now it's good. Yeah, but now I have the solution, so it's also I think it's really useful. I made it now.
So you can choose to still do the you can still choose to do the old fingering. It's no problem, but you might have to rethink like what are the musical implications. You understand, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
the
think if I use my old fingering, I need to adjust a lot of color because it's too big different. Like yeah, because everything was on always the treble string, right?
I'll tell
Yeah,
you one other thing. I'll tell you one other thing, which is really dangerous about the fingering that you're using. So the fingering that you're using is required. I mean, the note, that chord, that last chord that we're talking about, dum, right? That chord requires an accent. I mean, it says so in the score, right? There's, yeah,
yeah,
an accent,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right, exactly. So when you do it up there, when you create an accent in the higher positions, what happens is that what's happening to you, which is that you're getting buzzes. Why? Because the string is very short.
yeah. The length is really little and it's dark and
It's dark and the length is very short. So depending where you strike the string, let's say you do it here, right? So you have basically, I don't know how long this is, maybe a foot, 1 foot, or however many centimeters this is. But if you do it here, the length of the string is longer. So you can strike the string much harder. That means that your interpretation of that accent is going to be a lot more successful, a lot more um, the, because the string is longer, right? So the accent is going to, you can press the string in a very different way than you can. You're much more restricted up here. You cannot really play a good accent there. It's almost impossible. So better that other fingering if you can manage it. If you can manage, better to get the other fingering because of that accent. Because of that accent, extremely.
yeah, I agree.
That it gives you much more, much more bright and much more accented. So right, it's very Spanish. So
Yeah,
in general, I find that in general, if you can do a lot more with a little bit more brighter sound. I don't mean I don't mean I don't mean that,
yeah,
but I don't mean you see see what I mean, right?
Yeah, I thinking of.
Nobody would come if he wrote that in a piece. Nobody would complain because it sounds good. Now the problem with that is if he did that, then you would lose the counterpoint of the piece.
Yeah,
You know, because the counterpoint is very beautiful. It's sort of some notes are going up, some notes are going down. So if you play with a rasgado, then it's all color and no counterpoint, right? But
yeah,
when you play like he asks, so with the chord, you can really feel the counterpoint, the classical counterpoint that's happening
yeah.
here. And this piece is very classical, you know. We have to remember that it's very, very classical. We started with this idea at the beginning of the piece. Chen, last idea that I have for you. Um,
Yeah, because this piece actually recapitulation is the same thing, so maybe something in development.
yeah, but there's a lot of stuff in the development, but one thing which I think you're missing is this beautiful, beautiful, which is very Ponce, you know, this. You know, it's very orchestral, meaning that you can almost orchestrate it for an orchestra, and then you know, I can almost hear the flute, ta-dee-dum, you know, or a flute and an oboe playing that, ta-dee-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, ta-dee-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da. So when you think of that section and all the development section, think of how you would orchestrate this music on an orchestral score.
Yeah,
Where are my oboes? Where are my flutes? Where are my strings? Where are my basses, you know? And that's going to give you a lot of ideas about how to phrase and how to where to slow down and where not to slow down. So in this case, and also what kind of dynamics to use, you know, because when we start the section, it should be very soft and almost like right. So strings and cellos, maybe a flute and an oboe. Again, flute and oboe. And then crescendo, but it crescendo in a way which creates this tension in the music, you know. The way you're doing it is still too much and no slowing down, you know, no slowing down too much. In the recording that you sent me, it was very beautiful, but not orchestral, and too much still slowing down, like we talked about. That's going to be the main idea of the lesson.
yeah. I think I take some time too much. Like for yeah, I think I should keep the tempo. Not right. Yeah, this I now I knew the reason why. I just I think I should keep.
Imagine, you know, I'll go back to this idea of driving a car. Imagine if you're driving a car and every 2 seconds you stop. Every 2 seconds, you're going to make everybody sick in the back of the car. Okay, everybody's going to want out. I want out of this car. It's too crazy. So drive. You can drive slowly. You can drive fast. You can drive whatever, but don't go and stop. Go and stop. Go and stop. It's not good for this piece. And
Ah,
and when you create the dynamic, create it also with the color in mind, you know. So the pianissimo, this it's almost like a it's almost Mozart. it's like a big wave, you know. It starts very, very fast or very far away, and then it's sort of, and the climax is, of course, here. That's when the wave, yeah, that's when the wave hits the beach or whatever, you know. And you've seen it. We've all seen the way that waves are created on a beach, right? You see it very far away. It's not very, very big. It sort of comes in, starts to get bigger, more dramatic, and then boom, hits the sand, right? So this is the kind of image that I want you to have in this particular section, like a big wave coming, like a big wave. Far away. Next section. And then finally, boom, at the end, the A minor chord. Okay, try it and think instruments. Think instruments.
Yeah, nice.
No, that's too. It's not gentle enough. So yeah, your most beautiful tone there. Your most beautiful tone. One more time. That was good, except that what now I think you're going in the opposite direction, and you're playing everything like a metronome, which is not good either.
Yeah, it's so difficult to find the balance, you know. I'm really, yeah.
It's very difficult to find the balance. It's very difficult to find the balance in almost everything, you know, in life, in music, in whatever you're doing. Balance is almost always the more difficult. Almost. Do you know why?
Uh,
Because
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
don't know. So maybe you tell me. I
No, I
want.
mean, you probably can, you probably know, but it's, for me at least, it's because you have to understand both sides of something before you find the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's very difficult because usually we tend to understand only one side. But in order for you to really understand where to meet in the middle, you have to understand this side and you have to understand that side. So whenever you're practicing, experiment with both extremes. Experiment with the extreme of doing it like this, very mechanically, you know, like with a metronome, and then the extreme of do whatever you want and take lots of breaks, you know, and stop the piece, and that's not good either. So the balance will be in the middle, and you have to understand both before you find the middle. Okay, so I think that's pretty good, except that what I would say is that kind of balance, use some of your old ideas, and try to create a little bit more gradual, because right now it sort of went up, and then that chord became almost like a surprise. But you don't want it to be a surprise. You want it to be like a climax, a culmination of something, you know, not a surprise. Okay, try one last time.
Should I continue?
No, stop that. I think that's good. We can stop right here because you have things to do and I have to go now also.
Yeah.
But
Then you
this
want? Yeah.
go ahead, Chin. Go ahead, Tommy.
I mean, do you want to stop the recording first or?
Yeah, let's stop it.
Okay.
No, wait. Well, let's actually go with the recording. I'm just going to give you a last couple of things to think about before.
Oh yeah, because I thought you need to use the video for sending and.
No. Just well, I do need to use it, but just try to you're not there with the piece yet. Just kind of just going to leave you with some general comments. You know, you're not with the piece yet where you have finished the study of the score. Don't be afraid to work with the piece and the score. You know what I mean. Your interpretation is very good, and I'm not. You have to trust your intuition always. I always say you have to trust your intuition, but let yourself be guided a little bit by the score. Let yourself try to understand what the composer is trying to say. Try to understand what Segovia is trying to say. What are those things Segovia is trying to say? Well, with those glissandos and those slurs, like that we talked about, right? He's trying to give you an idea of how he wants that phrase to be created. And we have to respect that, because this is part of the performance practice of the piece. We have Segovia's recording, which is very important, but more important in some ways is the addition, because that's how he felt the music, and that's how Ponce's music sort of came alive through him, right? So consider every little nuance, every little detail of what he wants to say, and understand why does he use glissandos going up? Why does he use slurs going down? There must be a reason.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like I said, try not to anticipate too much. So don't slow down too much before we hear something new, and don't speed up too much. Meaning, your
To find a balance in the
it's a meridional sonata, a Spanish sonata. When you get to the second theme, don't overdo it. Don't make it too
serious. I want you to.
well,
Yeah.
all the stuff that we talked about, and
Yeah.
make it more Spanish. And the most important element in Spanish music is rhythm and consistency of rhythm. So you lose that, you can do other things. You can do other Spanish things, like colors and all these other things, which are really important. But if you lose the rhythm, if you lose the consistency, you're going to lose the most important thing in Spanish music. So, but the work continues. So we started off talking with the lesson. We started off, how long have you played the piece, and what is your experience? So now you can take it to the next level of the experience, which is to incorporate some of those things, make it more Spanish, make it a little bit more detailed. But it sounds good.
Yeah, I agree also. I feel like the piece also, when I play at first it's different, and when the time is going on I play like, I think I like to be open with an interpretation and not to play everything always the same. That's why we have like the machine to set that you put this, and 10 years I'm going to play like this always. So I think it's good to change an interpretation to, when the time change, everything, the interpretation also change time by time.
We call this, a lot of people call, myself included, we call this the journey of music, right? You take a trip. Sometimes you don't know what to expect. Sometimes you can plan things. Sometimes things happen that you cannot predict. So the way that you're going to play the piece in the future, you cannot predict it. But there are certain things that you can make to improve the audience appreciation of what the piece is about. So I think that's very important. So we'll finish here, Chin. Thanks. It was great. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. So I, yeah.